No one knew where it came from. A black mass drifted silently in the void, just beyond the edge of human-claimed space. It was unlike anything the Deep Space Patrol had ever seen: no radio signals, no distress calls, no markings. Just darkness, absorbing all light around it like a hole in space itself. Captain Ray Carter leaned forward in his command chair aboard the Orion's Edge, staring at the massive object on the view screen. It was easily the size of a battleship, yet there was no sign of damage, no visible engines, and no movement. It just floated. His crew sat in tense silence. Lieutenant Daniels, his second-in-command, finally broke it. "Sir, is that thing even a ship?" Carter exhaled slowly. "It's not an asteroid. It wasn't natural. That much was clear. But it didn't match any known human or alien vessel either. The shape was too perfect, the hull too smooth, like it had been constructed by something, or someone." Then, a crackling voice broke through the ship's radio. "Unidentified vessel, this is the Gorthian Empire. Step away from the object immediately. It belongs to us." Carter's jaw tightened. The Gorthians. A warlike species that had clashed with humanity for decades. They never made claims lightly. If they wanted something, they would fight for it. "Patch me through," Carter said. The comms officer nodded, and the connection opened. "This is Captain Carter of the Orion's Edge. We don't see your flag on it. If it was yours, you would have claimed it already." Silence. Then, after a beat, the Gorthian commander responded in a low growl. "You do not know what you are dealing with, human." Carter's fingers drummed against the armrest. He didn't like threats, especially not vague ones. But before he could respond, something else happened. The black ship moved. Not by thrusters, not by any visible force, just a slow, deliberate shift in position. The Orion's Edge's scanners flared to life. "Sir." The ship just activated. On screen, the darkness pulsed. Like something inside had awoken. A chill ran through Carter's spine. "Daniels," he said. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going in." The lieutenant hesitated. "Sir, I." Then the black ship sent a message. Not in any known language. Just 3 words. Words that made Carter's blood run cold. "Hello, Captain Carter." The bridge of the Orion's Edge was silent. Everyone had heard it. The message. "Hello, Captain Carter." The voice had been neutral, flat, almost mechanical, but it knew his name. Carter felt a weight settle in his chest. He had never been here before. Never seen this ship. And yet, it had greeted him personally. "Sir," Lieutenant Daniels said, her voice low. "There's no way it should know who you are." "I know," Carter muttered. That was the problem. The Gorthians were still on the comms, demanding they back away, but Carter wasn't about to leave a mystery like this unsolved. He gave a single command. "Prep the boarding shuttle." Minutes later, Carter stood in the airlock, fully suited up, his helmet HUD displaying the ship's energy readings, or rather, the lack of them. It was still mostly dormant, but its systems had activated just enough to send that message. The docking tube extended, latching onto the black ship's hull with a soft clang. The outer hatch hissed open. Beyond it was pure darkness. Carter clicked on his helmet light and stepped inside, followed closely by Lieutenant Daniels and 2 security officers. The air inside was thin, stale, as if no one had breathed it in centuries. The walls were smooth metal, polished yet eerily cold to the touch. Daniels swept her scanner along the corridor. No life signs. They moved cautiously, boots echoing in the silence. It was unsettling, too clean, too well preserved. Like the ship had been abandoned yesterday, not centuries ago. Then they found the first sign that humans had been here before. It was a tablet, old, cracked, and covered in dust. Carter picked it up and wiped the screen clean. The moment he did, the screen flickered to life. A recording played. And Carter's heart stopped. On the screen was a man's face, hardened, lined with years of experience. A face Carter knew. His father. The recording was old. Grainy. Distorted. But the voice was unmistakable. If you're hearing this, that means you found it. Daniels looked at Carter sharply. Sir. He ignored her. He was frozen, staring at the image of his father, the man who had vanished 30 years ago on a deep space expedition. The man everyone had assumed was dead. But here he was. Leaving a message on a ghost ship. This ship is dangerous, the recording continued. It wasn't meant to be found. It wasn't meant to wake up. Carter felt a lump rise in his throat. His father had been here. Had touched this very screen. If you're listening, get out. Before it's too late. Then, without warning, the tablet shut off. The ship rumbled. Lights flickered along the corridor. A deep, thrumming sound vibrated through the walls, as if something enormous had just woken up. And then, a voice. The same one from before. Welcome home, Captain Carter. The doors at the end of the corridor slammed shut. The ship had trapped them inside. Outside, aboard the Orion's edge, alarms blared. The black ship's energy levels spiked. The Gorthians, still orbiting nearby, must have seen it too, because their commander's voice came through the comms in a panic. You fools! You woke it up. Their weapons powered up. And then, without warning, the black ship began to move. The deck shuddered beneath Carter's feet. The moment the ship sealed them inside, a low, eerie hum filled the corridors, vibrating through the walls like a heartbeat. Lieutenant Daniels turned to Carter, her face pale behind her visor. Sir. I think it just powered up. Carter didn't answer. He was staring at the tablet in his hands, his father's last warning ringing in his ears. This ship is dangerous. Get out before it's too late. But it was too late. They were trapped inside. A sudden whoosh of air behind them made Carter spin. The corridor they had just come from was gone. The walls had shifted, rearranging themselves into an entirely different hallway. What the? One of the security officers, Ramirez, muttered. Did the ship just move? Carter clenched his jaw. It's alive. Outside, trouble was brewing. On the Orion's edge, alarms blared as the black ship began moving on its own. We've lost contact with the captain, the comms officer reported. No response from the boarding team. Lieutenant Harris, the officer in charge while Carter was away, cursed under his breath. On the main screen, the Gorthian warship was moving into attack position. Their commander's voice came through, urgent and furious. Listen to me, human. That ship is not yours. It is not ours. It is a relic of something far older than your people, or mine. You do not want to be inside when it fully wakes up. Harris frowned. What do you mean? There was a pause. Then, with clear fear in his voice, the Gorthian commander said. That ship once belonged to them. Harris's blood ran cold. Them? Who the hell is them? The Gorthian commander hesitated. Then he whispered the name like it was a curse. The Firstborn. Inside the ship. Carter and his team moved quickly, scanning for any possible way out. The ship was rewriting itself, walls shifting, corridors changing direction, doors appearing and disappearing at will. It wasn't just alive, it was aware. Then, without warning, a holographic projection flared to life in front of them. A man stood there, tall, with a commanding presence. His features were human, but off. His eyes glowed faintly, and his expression was unreadable. Carter's breath caught in his throat. He recognized the man. Not from personal experience, but from history books. Lieutenant Daniels whispered, "Sir, isn't that?" Carter nodded. General Elias Voss. The last commander of Earth's First Fleet. The same fleet that had vanished without a trace 300 years ago. The message. The hologram of General Voss looked down at them, as if seeing into their souls. "If you are hearing this, it means the ship has chosen you." Carter's heart pounded. Chosen? What did that mean? You are standing aboard the last warship of the Firstborn. The ship is not your enemy, but it is not your friend either. The hologram flickered. You must leave. The enemy still lingers in the dark. If this ship is awake, then so are they. Lieutenant Daniels frowned. Who is they? Before the hologram could answer, the ship shook violently. A loud, piercing sound ripped through the corridor, like a deep, mechanical scream. And then Carter heard something worse. Footsteps. Heavy. Unnatural. Coming from the darkness ahead. Something else was here. Something the ship had just woken up. Carter gritted his teeth. Weapons up. We're not alone. A shape emerged from the shadows, tall, inhuman, its form distorted by flickering lights. Its glowing red eyes locked onto them. And then, with a voice that did not belong in this world, it spoke. You were never meant to return. The creature stepped forward. It was tall, its body a grotesque fusion of metal and organic tissue. Its armor-like plating gleamed under the dim emergency lights, and its glowing red eyes locked onto Carter with something that felt like recognition. It wasn't just a mindless machine. It knew who he was. You were never meant to return. Its voice was not natural. It had an eerie, mechanical resonance, like hundreds of voices speaking at once. Lieutenant Daniels took a step back, gun raised. What the hell is that thing? Carter kept his weapon steady, his mind racing. If the ship had been asleep for centuries, that meant so had this thing. And now, it was awake. The hologram of General Voss flickered, his face grim. If you are seeing this, then one of them has survived. Carter's stomach twisted. They were our greatest mistake. The creature lunged. The fight for survival. Carter and his team fired as the creature charged. Bullets slammed into its plated body, sparking off metal, but it kept coming. Then it moved, too fast. It grabbed Ramirez, yanking him off his feet and hurling him down the corridor. The impact shattered his visor, and he went limp. Carter barely had time to process it before the creature turned on him. But the ship reacted. Panels along the walls suddenly glowed, and an unseen force slammed the creature backward. The metal shifted around it, sealing it into the wall. The creature let out a horrible, guttural screech before it was swallowed by the closing metal plates. Then, silence. Daniels was panting. Did the ship just save us? Carter didn't answer. His gaze was locked on the spot where the creature had vanished. Whatever it was, it hadn't been killed. The ship had just put it back to sleep. But for how long? The truth about humanity. The hologram of General Voss reappeared, flickering as if struggling to stay active. That was a remnant, he said. One of the last of them. A warrior from the old war. Carter narrowed his eyes. What war? The general's expression darkened. The war that nearly erased us. Carter and his team exchanged uneasy glances. Voss continued. You were taught that humanity only reached the stars a few centuries ago. That we expanded, encountered alien life, and fought to survive. He shook his head. That was a lie. Carter's breath caught in his throat. Humanity ruled the stars thousands of years ago. Daniels whispered, that's impossible. No, Voss said. It was necessary. After the war, we erased ourselves to survive. Carter's pulse pounded. This changed everything. The firstborn weren't some ancient alien species. They were us. Why the truth was buried. Lieutenant Daniels shook her head in disbelief. But why? Why would we erase our own history? Voss's hologram flickered. Because the war was unwinnable. Because the enemy was beyond our understanding. And because if we remembered, we would fight again. Carter clenched his fists. What enemy? The general exhaled. They had many names. We called them the extinguishers. They were not aliens. They were not machines. They were something in between. Something old. Something waiting. And when they came for us, we lost. Carter's throat tightened. The remnant they had just fought, it had been one of them. A survivor of that war. The ship hadn't just been drifting aimlessly all these years. It had been guarding something. Something it never wanted to wake up. A choice to make. The ship suddenly shook, alarms flaring. The Orion's edge was hailing them. Through the comms, Lieutenant Harris's voice was urgent. Captain. The Gorthians are moving in, they're trying to destroy the ship. Daniels turned to Carter. Sir, if they fire while we're inside. We're dead, he finished grimly. But something bothered him. If the Gorthians wanted this ship destroyed so badly. What did they know that he didn't? Carter made his choice. Get to the command deck, he ordered. We need to take control of this ship, before it's too late. Above the black ship. Outside, the Gorthian warship prepared to fire. The Gorthian commander's hands shook as he gave the order. Destroy it. Before it's too late. The cannons charged. And then. The black ship moved. Not just moved, it came alive. Its dark hull shifted, absorbing the light around it. Energy flared from its ancient core. A deep, inhuman voice echoed across the comms. Initiating final protocol. Inside, Carter and his team staggered as the ship's systems fully powered on. The walls glowed with ancient symbols. And then, with a final, thunderous sound, the ship spoke. Humanity was never meant to return. Then. Everything went white. Everything went white. A blinding pulse of energy surged outward from the black ship, rippling through space like a shockwave. On the Orion's edge, Lieutenant Harris shielded his eyes as warning sirens blared. The hell was that? The Gorthian warship had stopped mid-attack, its weapons disabled, its engines flickering in and out of power. Inside the black ship, Carter and his team stumbled, blinking as their visors adjusted. The voice returned. Final protocol initiated. The ship's interior changed, the walls rearranging in smooth, seamless motion. Symbols glowed along the corridor floors, revealing a path leading deeper into the ship. Daniels looked at Carter. Sir. I think it wants us to go somewhere. Carter tightened his grip on his rifle. Then let's move. The Gorthians react. Above them, the Gorthian commander was panicking. It's waking up. We have to stop it. His officers hesitated. Sir, our weapons are offline. The commander's face hardened. Then we board it. Before it's too late. Inside the black ship. Carter led his team through the twisting corridors, following the glowing path beneath their feet. The ship whispered as they moved. Faint echoes of voices, ghostly warnings from the past. Ramirez swallowed hard. Sir, this place is giving me the creeps. Then they stepped into a massive chamber, a command center unlike anything human-made. Floating above the central console was a holographic display, a star map, old beyond measure. But something stood out. One part of the galaxy was dark, marked with a symbol Carter had never seen before. A warning sign. Daniels whispered, that can't be right. Carter turned to her. What? She swallowed. That sector of space? It's empty. No stars. No planets. Just void. Carter stared at the map. That wasn't void. That was where the enemy had been. Where the extinguishers had wiped out entire civilizations. Where humanity once stood, and fell. And then the ship's voice spoke again. Enemy signatures detected. Boarding parties inbound. Carter's blood ran cold. The Gorthians were here. The battle begins. The first explosion rocked the ship. Carter gritted his teeth as the hull trembled beneath them. Daniels, status. She checked her scanner. They're forcing entry through the lower decks. Damn it. Carter turned to his team. We can't let them take control of this ship. We hold the command center, whatever this thing is, it's our best shot. The ship understood. Panels along the walls shifted, revealing weapons, ancient yet functional. Pulse rifles. Energy shields. Armor built for war. Ramirez exhaled. Okay, I take it back. This ship isn't so bad. Carter grabbed a rifle and turned toward the entrance. Then the Gorthians arrived. A wave of heavily armored soldiers stormed into the chamber, weapons raised. Their leader, a towering warrior with deep scars across his face, stepped forward. His black eyes locked onto Carter. Human, he growled. Step away from the console. Carter stood his ground. Not happening. The Gorthian's eyes narrowed. Then you've doomed us all. Then he opened fire. Chaos erupts. The room exploded into battle. Gunfire lit up the chamber, energy rounds slamming into walls as both sides fought for control. Daniels took cover, returning fire with sharp, precise shots. Ramirez took out 2 Gorthians, but more kept pouring in. The black ship reacted. The walls shifted, forming defensive barriers around Carter's team. It was protecting them. Carter ducked behind cover, taking quick shots at the enemy leader. The Gorthian was fast, dodging each blast with unnatural speed. Then, the ship's systems flared. A deep pulse of energy rippled through the room. Everyone froze. A new hologram appeared, hovering over the console. But it wasn't Voss this time. It was something else. Something ancient. And it was waking up. The real threat reveals itself. The hologram shifted, revealing a tall, humanoid figure. Its face was hidden behind a smooth, featureless mask. Its body was covered in intricate, shifting armor that pulsed like a living thing. Its voice was cold, emotionless. The cycle begins again. The Gorthian leader's face went pale. No, he whispered. Not again. Carter's grip on his weapon tightened. What the hell is that? The ship answered. The last of the Firstborn's enemy. A remnant of the extinguishers. The hologram's eyes flared to life. Humanity was not meant to rise again. The black ship trembled, its systems overloading. Then, the hologram reached out. And reality shattered. Outside the black ship. On the Orion's edge, Harris watched in horror as the black ship's shape began to change. Its hull rippled, as if something inside was breaking free. The Gorthian warship's commander sent one final, desperate message. Get out of there. Before it's too late. But inside the black ship, the past had come back to life. And the real war was about to begin. The moment its hand extended, a pulse of energy rippled through the black ship. Reality shuddered. For a brief second, Carter felt like he was somewhere else, as if the air had been ripped away, replaced by a cold, dark void. Then it snapped back, and the ship's alarms flared. Something had changed. The Gorthian leader fell to his knees, his eyes wide with terror. "No," he whispered. "Not again." Carter steadied himself, his rifle still aimed at the hologram, the eerie, shifting figure that had just altered reality. "Someone start talking," Carter growled. "What the hell is that?" The ship answered. "Designation, Extinguisher Prime." The name sent a chill through the room. Daniel swallowed. "That's the thing the Firstborn fought, isn't it?" The Gorthian leader nodded slowly. "Yes. And lost." The Extinguisher Prime turned toward Carter, its featureless face tilting as if analyzing him. Then it spoke. "Humanity was erased for a reason." Carter's pulse pounded. "You were never meant to rise again." Then the ship shook violently. The ship's transformation. On the Orion's edge, Lieutenant Harris gripped the armrests of his chair as the black ship began to change. Its shifting form, one of the officers yelled. The smooth, silent hull of the ship began breaking apart, revealing layers of ancient machinery beneath, engines that had been dormant for thousands of years, now roaring to life. Then the worst part. A second energy signature appeared. Something else had awakened. "Sir," a crew member whispered, "we're not alone anymore." Harris turned toward the viewscreen. And there, emerging from the depths of dark space, was another ship. Or rather, something that looked like a ship but wasn't. It was massive, blacker than the void itself, its shape constantly shifting, like liquid metal frozen in time. The ship's scanners couldn't define its structure. Because it wasn't made of metal. It was alive. Inside the black ship. Carter and his team staggered as the ship's energy surged. The Extinguisher Prime spoke again, its voice hollow, empty of emotion. "We are the silence after the storm. We are the end of the cycle." The Gorthian leader pushed himself up, eyes burning with desperation. "You don't understand, human," he growled. "This isn't just your past, it's ours too." Carter turned to him. "Explain. Fast." The Gorthian's jaw clenched. "The Firstborn weren't just humans," he said. "They were, us. Before the war, our ancestors fought alongside yours. We lost together. And the few who survived, they forgot." Daniel's eyes widened. "You're saying your people were once part of the same empire?" "Not just my people," the Gorthian leader said. "Most of the known galaxy was under human rule before the extinguishers came. And when humanity fell, the rest of us." He exhaled sharply. "We chose to forget. We buried the past because we thought, if we never remembered, they would never return." Carter's mind reeled. "So you're saying," he said slowly, "that we woke them up?" The Extinguisher Prime turned toward him again. "Humanity's return is a mistake," it said. Then the entire ship went dark. A second later, a cold, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Assimilation protocol engaged." And the walls started shifting again. "The final battle begins." Outside, the Gorthian warship fired first, its plasma cannon striking the approaching extinguisher ship. But the attack did nothing. The black mass absorbed the energy, twisting, reforming into something worse. Then it fired back. A pulse of void energy blasted through space, ripping through the Gorthian shields like they were paper. Inside the black ship, Carter barely had time to process what was happening before the ship's AI flared to life. The voice of General Voss returned. "Captain Carter, you have a choice to make." The console before him glowed, revealing two options. Reactivate the black ship's full combat capabilities. Shut it down permanently. Carter's hands clenched into fists. "Sir!" Daniel shouted. If we activate the ship, we might have a chance to fight. But if we do, the Gorthian leader countered, we risk restarting the war all over again. The ship rumbled. The Extinguisher Prime took a step forward. You cannot win, it said. Carter stared at the controls. This was the moment that decided everything. If he activated the ship, he might save his people, but he might also doom them to repeat the past. If he shut it down, humanity might never get another chance to reclaim its legacy. The Extinguisher Prime raised a hand. The enemy ship outside began to charge its final weapon. Carter took a breath. And then he made his choice. His hand hovered over the console for a split second, then, with a deep breath, he slammed his palm down. The ship lurched. Lights flickered across the walls as the ancient systems responded. A deep, mechanical voice boomed through the chamber. Final command accepted. For a moment, Carter didn't know if he had activated the ship's weapons. Or shut it down forever. Then, everything stopped. Outside, the battle ends. On the Orion's edge, Lieutenant Harris watched in shock as the black ship's energy shifted. The massive extinguisher vessel, which had been preparing to fire, froze in place. Then, slowly, its surface began breaking apart, as if its own power was being drained. The black ship's voice echoed across all comm channels. Cycle terminated. The extinguisher ship screamed. Not a mechanical sound. Not a weapon discharge. A real scream. And then, it collapsed inward, folding into nothingness. One moment it was there, the next, it was gone. The Gorthian warship, now crippled, drifted silently. And then, just like that, the battle was over. Inside the black ship, Carter exhaled, his heart hammering. Daniels looked around. Sir, what just happened? The hologram of General Voss reappeared. You made the right choice. Carter's eyes narrowed. Explain. Voss's expression was unreadable. This ship was never a war machine. It was a failsafe. Carter stiffened. Failsafe? Voss nodded. The Firstborn knew we couldn't win. But we could end the war another way. This ship was designed to act as a kill switch, to shut down any remaining extinguisher forces if they ever returned. That's what you just activated. Carter let out a breath. He had been seconds away from restarting a war, but instead, he had ended it permanently. Daniels was shaking her head. All this time, we thought we had to fight to survive. But maybe. Carter finished her sentence. Maybe survival means choosing a new path. The black ship hummed, almost as if satisfied. Then the walls began shifting again. This time, however, they were opening. A new corridor formed, a direct path leading back to the docking bay. The ship was letting them go. It had finished its final mission. The last goodbye. As Carter and his team stepped onto the Orion's edge, the black ship began to power down. Panels slid shut, lights dimmed, and the eerie hum faded. It wasn't dying. It was going back to sleep. The Gorthian commander, now patched through comms, spoke in a low voice. You did what we never could, human. You ended the cycle. Carter didn't know what to say. Finally, he just nodded. As the Orion's edge pulled away, they watched the black ship drift into deep space. It had been waiting centuries for someone to come. To choose something different. And now, it was finally at peace. Epilogue, a new future. Days later, Carter stood on the bridge of the Orion's edge, staring at the stars. Humanity had learned the truth.